Welcome to Presentation, Ponder, Practice. We've studied numbers 11 through 99, 6 through 10, 3 through 5, then 1 and 2. Although 0 is my hero for all you Schoolhouse Rock watchers, the Bible doesn't use 0. It does use other means for addressing such a quantity, such as none or no, followed by some item, subject, description, or duration. We need to go the other direction. Large numbers. Large numbers have separate words for them, like hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. Even larger numbers have to be expressed by multiples of these, such as 10,000 times 10,000 or thousands of thousands. Combinations emphasize, reiterate, or stress the value of a number. The multiple of 4 that is the most significant is the number 40. Rain flooded the earth for 40 days. Genesis chapter 7 and verse 12. Jesus withstood Satan's temptations for 40 days. Mark chapter 1 and verse 13. 40 also represented the approximate length of one generation. Numbers chapter 32 verse 13 and Psalm 95 verse 10. By the age of 40, a person was considered mature. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 11, but don't stop reading there. You'll be left shaking your head at me. Go ahead and read Acts chapter 7 and verse 23, which goes along with Acts 2 verse 11, and then it'll make sense to you. 7 times 7 increases the sense of completeness. A Sabbath rest for the land was every 7 years. Leviticus 25 and verse 4. After 7 Sabbath years, the year of Jubilee followed, Leviticus 25 and verse 10. In the year of Jubilee, all Jewish bond slaves were released, and land which had been bought reverted back to its owner, its former owner, that is, the details of which are laid out in Leviticus chapter 25. Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks, is 7 times 7 days after Passover. 70 is literally sevens in Hebrew. It strengthens the concept of perfection. Larger numbers were either given by Egyptian symbols or the name of the number was written out in Hebrew text. The Lord instructed Peter to give limitless forgiveness for a brother's sin with the words 70 times 7 in Matthew 18 verses 21 and 22. Multiples of 12 are included in Scripture, like 24 divisions of priest, 1 Chronicles 24 verse 4, and 24 elders around the heavenly throne in Revelation 4 verse 4. 12 times 12 increases the force, and when multiplied by 1,000, the thought arrives at the limitless number who were sealed out of all the tribes of Israel. Revelation chapter 7. 1,000 and 10,000 are sometimes used symbolically to denote vague but large numbers. Revelation 5 verse 11 has 2 such numbers expressing the inexpressible. The use of such large numbers in the Bible teach the joy and wonder of heaven, while also communicating the awfulness of God's wrath. Revelation chapter 9 and verse 16. Walter A. Elwell and Barry J. Batzel give a good rule of thumb concerning numbers and their use. They wrote in Baker Encyclopedia of the Bible, quote, "A good rule in trying to decide whether a number is statistical or impressionistic is to decide whether or not it is a small number and whether or not it is an unusual number for which there is no obvious theological explanation. The men point out numbers like 36 Israelites at the first assault on the city of Ai, Joshua chapter 7 and verse 5, and say, quote, "The smallness of the number is evidence that this is a vividly remembered factual detail." They also draw attention to Abraham's 318 trained men from his house, Genesis 14 verse 14, and the 153 fish count in John chapter 21 verse 11, then follow with this remark: "The numbers, though large, are not round numbers, but unusual combinations, and are obviously meant in a literal or statistical sense." The Hebrews also used half numbers or fractions. 1/2, Genesis chapter 24 verse 22. 2/10 and 1/3 appear in the book of Numbers, chapter 15 and verse 6. And then the number 1/4, Exodus chapter 29 and verse 40. One of the beauties of numbers is their arrangement in poetry. The pattern of X followed by X plus 1 appears as a way of emphasizing parallels. One great example can be seen in Proverbs chapter 30, verses 18 and 19. "There are 3 things which are too wonderful for me, 4 which I do not understand: the way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a serpent on a rock, the way of a ship in the middle of the sea, and the way of a man with a maid." Numbers have great importance for us in how we deliver information, remember teaching, and understand instruction. If there is anything that we should take away from a study of these numbers and their use, it would most certainly have to be to the need to give more attention to them in the reading of the Bible, to consider the numbers more closely, to look up their meaning, and then to think about their significance. Until next time, may God bless you.